Today, we're going to journey back in time, way back, to a forgotten superpower. We're talking about a civilization that totally mastered the desert, controlled global trade, and was known to the entire ancient world as this land of just unimaginable wealth. This is the incredible story of ancient Yemen, the lost empire of Arabia Felix. But before we dive in, I've got a question for you. For centuries, there was this one commodity that drove the global economy. I mean, wars were fought over it, empires were built on it, and for a while it was actually worth more than gold. Any ideas? The answer? Frankincense and myrrh. These aromatic resins, they were basically the oil of the ancient world. Just picture it, they're smoke-purifying Roman temples being used in Egyptian embalming rituals. This stuff was the scent of divinity, of power. And the main place you could get it? These remote valleys in southern Arabia. This right here was the economic engine that fueled a superpower. So how did this all happen? Well, we're going to explore how all this wealth created Arabia Felix. We'll meet the powerful kingdoms that were running the show. We're going to marvel at how they literally engineered a paradise in the middle of the desert, see how they reached a golden age of unity, and then watch how it all came crashing down. Okay, let's start at the beginning. The Romans and the Greeks, they looked at this corner of the world with just total awe, and they gave it a name that, really, it says it all. They called it Arabia Felix, and that literally means happy or fortunate Arabia. So why so fortunate? Well, while other places had, rocks and sand, this region had a complete monopoly on the fragrant treasures the entire world was desperate for. Its fortune was literally flowing from the sap of its trees. And all that fortune was protected and moved along this legendary network called the Incense Route. Now, this wasn't just some road. It was the economic superhighway of the ancient world, and the kingdoms of Yemen, they held all the keys. Now, all this immense wealth, it didn't create one single unified state, at least not at first. Instead, it fueled this really dynamic and often competitive group of kingdoms, all of them fighting for a piece of the pie. For centuries, the whole political scene was dominated by four major players. You had the legendary Saba, the strategic Qataban, the resource-rich Hadramaut, and the one that would eventually unite them all, Himyar. Each one carved out its own slice of this incredibly lucrative trade, and together they shaped the history of the entire region. And their strategic locations, that was everything. Saba controlled the Central Highlands and had influence all the way across the Red Sea. Qataban, they held the critical sea straits, the choke points. Hadramaut was right in the heartland of where the incense actually grew. And Himyar? Well, as we're going to see, it was perfectly poised to eventually just swallow them all up. And, of course, you can't talk about the Kingdom of Saba without mentioning its most famous ruler, the legendary Queen of Sheba. Now, yeah, she's shrouded in myth, but she is still this powerful symbol of the wisdom, the wealth, and the incredible political clout that Saba had on the world stage. But the power of rulers like the Queen of Sheba, it wasn't just built on some fragrant tree sap. Nope. It was built on something way more fundamental. The ability to completely conquer their environment. See, this civilization's genius wasn't just in trade. They were master builders who did something that sounds impossible. They made the desert bloom. Their absolute crowning achievement was the Great Dam of Morib. Built way back around the 8th century BCE, this thing was one of the true engineering wonders of the ancient world. And it wasn't just a wall holding back water, it was the literal beating heart of the entire Sabaean kingdom. So how'd it work? It was just pure genius. The dam would capture all the flash floods from the seasonal monsoons. Then this super complex network of gates would channel that water to irrigate a massive area. We're talking 25,000 acres, creating this huge artificial oasis that supported tens of thousands of people smack in the middle of the desert. And their innovation, it didn't stop there. They also mastered the monsoon winds, not just for farming, but for sailing. They were trading all the way to India and East Africa. And all this success was supported by a highly literate society that developed its own unique alphabet, the Musnad script. They left behind thousands of inscriptions detailing their laws, their treaties, their entire history. So you've got this incredible economic power combined with mind-blowing technological skill. All of that set the stage for the civilization's absolute peak, a golden age of unity and strength. After centuries of rivalry, one ruler finally did the impossible. A king from the rising power of Himyar, a guy named Shammar Yaharsh, He conquered his rivals and, for the very first time, united all of ancient Yemen under a single crown, around 300 CE. This was a massive turning point. And his title. His title says everything about how huge this achievement was. He didn't just call himself a king. No. He adopted this magnificent, sprawling title that was basically a political statement. Each name, Saba, Duraidan, Hadramaut, that represented a kingdom he had conquered. It was a clear message to the world. The old divisions are over. This was the absolute zenith of Arabia Felix. But as we know, golden ages don't last forever. The unraveling of this unified kingdom was just brutal, caused by what you could only call a perfect storm of crises: ecological, economic, and political. The first blow was ecological. The Great Dam of Marib, the very symbol of their genius, it started to fail. Repeated breaches caused these catastrophic floods that just wiped out the farmland they had spent 1,000 years creating. This led to widespread famine and forced huge migrations of tribes out of the area. The second blow was economic. The Romans, their biggest customers, figured out a direct sea route to India. They learned to master the monsoon winds themselves, and just like that, the land-based incense route, Yemen's main source of wealth, was bypassed. Their economic monopoly, gone, shattered overnight. And the final blow? That was political. Weakened, impoverished, the kingdom was torn apart by internal conflicts, including religious strife, as Judaism and Christianity gained influence. All this instability was basically an invitation for foreign invasion, first from the Aksamites of Abyssinia, and later the Persians, completely shattering Yemen's long-held independence. So just to recap that incredible timeline, from building that amazing dam back in the 8th century BCE, through the golden age of unification around 300 CE, all the way to the final rapid collapse in the 6th century CE, a civilization that had lasted for over 1,000 years just vanished from the world stage. What we're left with is the story of a forgotten superpower. And it's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even the mightiest empires are vulnerable to shifts in trade, to environmental disaster, and to internal division. These are lessons that absolutely still resonate today. And that leaves us with one final thought. The story of Arabia Felix was almost lost to time, completely buried beneath the sand. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other great civilizations, other happy Arabias, has history just forgotten?
Hello, my dear friends! If you enjoyed today's adventures, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to receive all the fun and exciting new stuff.